boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all other sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Unequaled refuge, ornament of the world, your fame pervades the 3,000 worlds. You are the victor, Vajrapara, without a doubt. I bow at the feet of the Father, Jittamsula. Continually I think of no one but you. Compassionate one, grant your blessings. Dispel the darkness that surrounds my heart. Please bless me so that I may realize the unelaborated nature. The ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers. It is adorned with Meru, the supreme mountain, the 4 continents, and the sun and moon. As a Buddha field I offer it. May all sentient beings who attain the happiness of the Buddha fields. To the lamas who possess the 3 kayas, I offer the outer, inner, and secret offerings with my wide wealth and all that is visible. Please grant me the supreme realization, enlightenment. Om Guru Devaya.
Chante Vadan Chujin Yabatan Jesu Yirman Gujin Sorvai Gewa Jungze Dake Jesaba Tanje Sobe Jamyo Jemo.
Whatever merit I have gathered through prostrations, offering, confessing, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying, for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings.
Pichha Semchen Namje Sambadam Goye Cheta Chetawa Chechung Dimon Devaye Choje Koro Kocheso.
Please turn the wheel of the Dharma, of the 2 vehicles and the practices common to both, according to the dispositions and likewise the mental capacities of sentient beings.
Good morning. Very nice to see you. So this time I'm my 4th visiting here, Chicago. I think first time I think think late 80s first time, 87 I think. So this year I made a tour in the United States. So I did 1 month already tour here, and then we have to go back in India. His Holiness Dalai Lama to the 80 years birthday. All the religions had, and everybody have to gathering there. Also have religions, 12th of the gathering. So I just went there. Then now come here. Here we can't. Then we have continued to the United States until August day. So today very special day, so Independent Day. So this morning I will talk a little about today's subject is Buddhiji the whole day. So I will talk a little bit first general Buddhiji, how it's come, what it's about, and then after that we will talk more specific the Buddhiji, and also how do we practice. So, and that Dina Shugin so the Sidinema Tanda Umajuba, Umajuba, Dawa Tagway, Dina Kasuane, Yende Sanget Dinam Tuangi, Tuan Chanjusam, but they're too hing. Ninjis and the Nisu never look, Chanjus and the Yesanam use Niente Rasange.
No.
Sange Dinam, Tuale give this, Sange Jumatella. Sange Shaki the body, Chanjus in the Tumares. And then Di took the Ningji Semda, Nisumebek, Chanjusem the Ninjisam Nisumebek Semchiles, and Chanjusem Gesed the B. Like our said, Tamjig. Give a good soul to this. In the dying and equal the Tawasik Tawudi. Yendu Sangi to Toangi said equal Jifina.
So we're going to start with a quotation from the text by Chandrakirti called Entering the Middle Way, or Madhyamakavatara. And in this text he says, he writes that
Yendu Sangi Dinam Tuangi. Sangi Dings is our Sangi. Tua Sangi Jumele. Tua. Tuale Chumales.
Sangi So it's a verse and it goes kind of like this. So the hearers and solitary realizers, so the Shravakas and Prateka Buddhas, arise from the sage. So they arise from Buddha Shakyamuni. Buddha Shakyamuni himself. Born. Okay, so they're born from the Buddha. And then Buddha Shakyamuni himself was born from the Bodhisattvas, or was born from Bodhicitta. So this mind, the mind that has a non-dual union of bodhicitta and compassion, this is the cause of all of the children of the Buddha, all of the bodhisattvas are born from this mind of bodhicitta and compassion.
And Tangodi, that Yendu Sangi Jum Tuangi, that the Sangi Jum then the Sheshubegan Robuya, and Sangi Jum then the Tatapeto, the Lonya Dong Aviatas, the Lubinin Kutung, Tene Colony Shula Raptuchung, Sumsong La Sangi. And the Golden Gaju Kaji Pidol, Chui Kolokorte, or di kabla ta thoma di ini nyande gi tene deba so tikba chungu de chungurwa.
So if we start by talking about the Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, or the hearers and solitary realizers, it says they are born from the sage. So the Lord Buddha lived roughly 2,500 years ago. He was born in Lumbini, and then at the age of 20 he became a monk, or he renounced the world. At the age of 35 he became a Buddha, and then from that moment until the age of 81 he turned the wheel of the Dharma, he taught the Dharma. And so in his teachings he first turned the wheel of the Dharma, known as the smaller vehicle, which is the vehicle of the hearers, or the Shravakas.
Di kabla tene thambo gi sangye tene dostel sangye tene warna sil phene ani thoma chöde tembashi chu ko na wa na de sampo chöde tembashi chu ko da di na ne zo de du ko de nyen de gi ti ba wa nyen de ti ba de sangye sung di ma sangye sung de ma sung be ga la ko chu nyen ne en di na chöde di kabla zo sangye gi ta ti ba chu chu song ba yin za ani ti ba chu sia di ani ta sa su ji go gi ani ko ba dung ye ta ya di za ma do na ba ne ba sim je sang lo sam da gi ya ba da tene kur di chung chung ji ba kur de yang bo ji so su ji go ma da ngen ku me de ti ba chu ge che se se ta ti se do ji lesser rank, greater rank.
So, when the Buddha reached enlightenment at Bodh Gaya, then he, shortly after that, went to Varanasi, and there he gave the first set of teachings, which were teachings on the Four Noble Truths. And he taught it to this group known as the 5 Excellent Disciples. And so this is the first body of his teachings, the first turning of the wheel. And it's often referred to as the vehicle of the Shravakas, or the vehicles of the hearers. So we call them hearers because when the Buddha was teaching the Dharma, when he gave this teaching to them, they listened to his words, and then they heard those words. By listening to them, then they, kind of understood them. So they're called hearers, roughly. And we often refer to this set of teachings as the lesser vehicle. And the reason why we call it the lesser vehicle is that it focuses on benefit, or it focuses on your own self as an individual gaining liberation from samsara. So it's about bringing yourself out of the suffering of samsara, but it does not focus on benefiting all sentient beings, bringing all sentient beings equal to space out of samsara as well. So therefore the burden, or the responsibility for practitioners is much lighter than the other vehicles, and it's kind of, in a certain sense, easier. And so, because you're focusing on one person rather than many, and so we call it the lesser vehicle.
Southern tradition. And the name of Hong and the Maka Hojo, Sri Lanka, and Burma, Thailand, Cambodia, that is a man, Thailand, Ponama, Cuba. She's a degree called Sugar Suzzing nature, and condition to be Tibachu, the Cuba.
So then in the kind of academic study of Buddhism, scholars refer to this tradition as the southern tradition. the southern vehicle, or rather the southern tradition, because if you kind of take Bodh Gaya as the center of the Buddhist world, then this tradition spread mostly south of Bodh Gaya. So it went through southern India to Sri Lanka and Burma and Thailand. And so if we think about it from a geographical point of view, it's the lesser vehicle basically corresponds to the southern tradition.
제가 식디 토나 삼다베가라 티바추무 신게 식디 삼다베가라 ene chanchus mebda wa so jigo thanda da chagyo wa ine ya samro da na sangi jumden de khona samda wa sangi jumden de khona gyaga na ya ne chola dor pusum soba troboji shu yore de ine ya ane thonggi chi de pebe ga shalu de pebe ga ene semjen samano de gewe da gega na chi dungye mongbu ji sigyo me ga la 어도 수시 배가 토스미 마수에서 인지 첨부 기에네 아니 랍도 충네 아니 디 아니 소소 랍도 충네 코와도 빵네 아니 저 심전디게를 다 패도치야 지도 코베 동행디게 타야 지 어디데스 체제되는 남다 충분히 아니 년도 디게가 디지를 좀 받다 디사마 소수지고 탄다는 계란하는 기분이 되는 얘기로 봐. 이내 디스가 마스 바심제 상마로 탄도 잡도 중에 아니 가와제야다. 아니 심전디게 탄도 되네. 담바직 세야다. 디게를 패야 더 탑직 상기기 최 세야 체도 이 샴페인 기도 상으로 봐. 이 찬주 상으로 봐. 디 콜 데송레 기베 코스 디게 마치 시그널 년도 토마스 슈지 레데 이내야 디 세바디 코레심제게 상물로다. 동해는 타야지 삼로지 시디 인중 삼바 조데르 봐. 이 인도칼라 찬주 셈기 시디 마켜봐요. 매비지.
So when we think about the lesser vehicle, and from a kind of literal point of view, or when we just kind of examine the words of the teachings connected with it, we say that there's no bodhicitta, there's no mind of enlightenment there. Because you're focused just on one single individual. You're focused on yourself. But if we look at, I think it's not quite so clear-cut, because if we look, for instance, at the Buddhist life, he was living in India as a prince, like completely, in the lap of luxury, with every kind of wonderful delight, that one could ask for. He had everything that he could want. But then we see in his life story when he went out into the village, into the city, in the marketplace, and saw the suffering that all of sentient beings undergo, the sufferings of birth, old age, sickness, and death, and so forth. He couldn't bear it, that it just, this great amount of concern and a great amount of compassion arose within him. And that spurred him to go forth from his home to give up a samsaric lifestyle and become a mendicant. And then he went looking for a way to benefit sentient beings. He went around looking for the truth, searching for the truth, searching for a way to bring sentient beings out of samsara. So we say that Shravakas or hearers are focused on benefiting just themselves. To a certain point that's true, but if we, from the Buddhist example, if he wanted to just benefit himself, all he needed to do is stay in the palace. That would have been fine for him. But instead, he gave all of that up, wanting to benefit sentient beings, and went out looking for the Buddha Dharma, searching for the Dharma. So that was really motivated by an altruistic desire to benefit others. That was motivated by bodhicitta. We say that Shravakas have kind of a smaller motivation, they have a kind of a smaller mindset or something, it's a lesser vehicle. But they are also motivated by the desire to get out, to be released from the suffering of samsara. the impulse is coming from the same place, this desire to get out of the suffering of samsara. And so I think it's not entirely correct to say that they don't have bodhicitta, that bodhicitta is also present there.
그래서 년주 상계 뒤는 통화기 손다. 년주 상계 좀 상계 통화 뒤에 되는 천주 샘지로 봐. 뒤에 투부인지 엔티에 연구를 왔다. 바바데 부분에서 연구를 와.
So when we go back to this first line in our verse, and it says that the hearers and solitary realizers are born from the sage. In other words, they are born from bodhicitta. You know, if you're born, you know, the son is going to be like the father.
Tene sange nyangele dene longapke jela ane jaga phojona da gombulutu la sobachune da dikabla tene tiba chembu gishunu muoso thavne and di tiba chembu sebe gala ane muoso tene rajibu mayamba antari pena cha cheva korwa ane soso nyamle jikta kendeji chebe ne dodembe ne nga dombe ne 다 내가 가르치 해야 개화직 해야 진바지 담배 있는데 이게 사모로 남바드님의 심지어 30 팬백 치도 엔치야를 랍침부기 자주 샘플이 통보를 봐.
So then, about roughly 500 years after the Buddha reached nirvana, then in the south of India, the master Nagarjuna appeared, and that's the moment when the greater vehicle, the teachings of the greater vehicle were fully taught and fully flourishing. And so in the Mahayana, the greater vehicle, then the focus is not on just yourself, not just one person, but whether, you know, whatever you're doing, whether you're prostrating, making offerings, circumambulating, reciting prayers and mantras, whatever, all of that is being done, you know, or any virtuous deed that you do, any act of generosity that you do, all of that is being done for the sake of benefiting all sentient beings who are as numerous and equal to space. So at that point we have a really kind of vast, full-fledged bodhicitta.
이 산삼 교통에 체변 더지된 우유유유유유는 이 장원조리야 된 나베초디 네 스리 나가 안데야 간다하다 네야 아니 간다 야 누조고 네 간다데 네 자베데 네야 고레야 모조 어디네 마치 야야 장원조 아니 벽이 다 장원조 야 타야 Nyele Gana Gutarwa, Yatarlo Gadama Nyan Yorpele, any day at a Changu Nabikiwa, Tiwachamba Changu Nabikiwa Yasiwa.
So then again, from a geographical point of view, if we take Bodh Gaya as the center, then this tradition spreads mostly to the north, and so we call it the northern tradition. And so it goes up through Srinagar and Kashmir, Gandhara and what's now like Afghanistan and Pakistan, and then over across the western areas of China, all the way through China and then into Japan, and then eventually also into Tibet. And of course it reached China several centuries before it reached Tibet. Eventually it comes to Tibet as well, and so this tradition we call the northern tradition of Buddhism, and roughly equivalent to the Mahayana, the greater vehicle.
And Pearl, Pugu number Chudi, Mother Chidani Chungi, the Nigalo, the Pugu number Chudi, that Tiba Chamber Savore, Tiba Chamber Rela, and Tiba Chungi Yamlaya Chebu, and Mojo to the Deshuna, and Chidang, the Lugu Mountain Nala, and Plato to the Nyense, Gabla, and Tambet Tabet, Dark Change. Plato the Nyense gave his editor. Get up to you. Get up to us, Kimada. You bet. Or did you they cannot show that. This they cannot show. This share. Cannot do Shana. Yes, the central. And how to the Nyanzen Kabla, any how to the Nyanzen Kablia, and we should have it. The Chumba, the Kabla Jarana, and Bend the Hashi, sure that the Ine, and number should be things that we should be because we did high on Maravasna, any general to the Pikia Kola, to example, Tamania December. Chumbe Gamneche, any Tombozu, Giavodia, any Giavogo, Chetu Giavoda, any Chu, Perguchu Nyabodi, any Giavo one good by the perpetually, but then she was Tarioma, and Tarja, Lomanguchi, in a law, Giavotango Nature, any Tesson design partu. Tesson design the any did that also the Jello. Dinga tuju de ni choson de ze ko lo ni shin ta be ka la hin ne ene na be chu zao su ne ene ge bo lu bu ka lo ge ta na sta ke ne che chu na ge to su to dim ga ti je ene ne su na ngo chu ngo su ra ta po nga ta de Giabo is it? You should subject or the election. Tambon and you subject, you know. You do the Dachung, do Karachung, these some of the Maset and the Garane, Imji Chungwa. Member Imji Haji, Gebu, Imji changes. BG sing it. Chung said, the deep Bugu and she gave us come along. Any Lamemba Chungwa, Lamemba Tampoti. Well, the desk Chung, that number should be so the Imada Yene, any Gabo, Cheson de Zampedo, Cheto Yomava. So the accident, good. The Kishla.
So then if we talk about Tibetan Buddhism, then the Tibetan tradition of Buddhism, there's kind of two main kind of sections of it, which we call sometimes the two dispensations, or the early translation period and then the later translation period. But both of these are Mahayana traditions. Both of these are belong to the greater vehicle. And so, although they are Mahayana traditions, they also incorporate practices from the lesser vehicle as well. So if we just give a kind of rough account of the history of Tibetan Buddhism, then it kind of the first kind of hint of Buddhism, the first kind of symbols of Buddhism arrive in Tibet during the reign of the king Platotori Nyingsen. And he is the 28th king in the history of Tibetan kings. And so what we're what we're looking at here is actually a history of the Tibetan kings and the Tibetan Empire that His Holiness has written based on very early manuscripts. So we're just checking the dates of the kings. So at the time of Platotori Nyingsen, there were some pundits, some scholars from India who came and taught the Dharma, but it really didn't